Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wilderness Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rob Minturn, founder and owner of Wilderness PT. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. Hopefully you guys are staying warm and gearing up for the snow that's about to come. It looks like it's already out in Wyoming. Hopefully you guys are gearing up for the snow that's about to hit the Midwest, and you guys are planning on hunkering down here this weekend and maybe have some good movies to watch and watching the Super Bowl. This week, I wanted to touch on postpartum depression, how long it lasts. It's been a while since I have done a women's health podcast, so I wanted to do that, and here on out, I'll be doing one a month. So before we talk about postpartum depression, we need to talk about the Spicy Saturday workout. So Justin finally is giving you guys a breather from the Give Her Hell, Go Like Hell workout styles. So we've got an every minute on the minute in EMOM, and it's going to be a 15-minute EMOM. The first movement's going to be a step up with a suitcase carry. Then you're going to go into a plank. Then you're going to go into a kettlebell shoulder press. 10 on the left side, 10 on the right side. You're doing a single arm shoulder press, so the weight's only going to be in one hand. I'm not sure if that's what Justin intended or not, but that's the modification I'm going to give you. And then you're going to do Russian kettlebell swings, and then you're going to have a minute of rest. So if you're not familiar with every minute on the minute, what you're going to do is, so from 0 to 60 seconds, you're going to do step ups with that suitcase carry. From 60 seconds to 120 seconds, you're going to do a plank. And from 120 seconds to 180 seconds, you have time to do your 10 shoulder presses on each side. With this movement, you are going to, whatever time you have left after those 20 reps, so 10 on each side, whatever time you have left until the next minute, you get to rest. And then the next minute, you're going to be doing Russian kettlebell swings, and then the next minute, you have a built-in rest. Typically, if there's desired reps, once the person's done with the desired reps, you get to rest until the next exercise is going on. But with how Justin has this structured, you're going to be doing movement the entire 60 seconds with the exception of the shoulder press, and then that's why he's got the built-in rest. All right, so for the kettlebell and dumbbell movements, your kettlebell or dumbbell movements, if that's what you have available, you're going to be, for the RX, you're going to be doing 35 for the guys, 15 for the ladies. For your box height, you're going to be doing 24 for the guys and 20 inches for the ladies. For your scaled movements, the dumbbell, kettlebell weights are going to be 20 for the guys, 10 for the ladies, and then the box height is going to be 20 inches all around. Again, you can mix and match the RX with the scaled movements. It's totally fine to do that. Make it your own workout. All right? If you guys have any questions on that, go ahead and shoot us a message. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. That will be posted tomorrow morning. So with that, the newsletter, the topic this month, usually I do some highlights of the podcast and some other things. I throw some other things in there. I think this month's topic is going to be loving yourself. So that's going to go out next Saturday. Spike camp. So that is going to change on Sunday. Last week I touched on this whole week was recovery week. This Sunday I'm going to be changing the workout. So Monday will be the brand new workout. If you have not joined yet, it's not going to be an issue. You can still definitely join. It won't be an issue for you to jump in on the second phase. So if you guys have any questions on that, let me know. With the Spike Camp workout or Spike Camp membership too, you get daily workouts that include resistance training, cardio, mobility, access to recorded seminars. All the seminars from last year are underneath the Spike Camp membership, and Justin and I are working on seminars for the rest of the year. Some of them will be free to you guys and aired. We'll have that announcement coming up at some point, either this month or next month once we figure out topics. But some of the topics and some of the seminars are not going to be recorded or available for free for live. They'll just be uploaded to the Spike Camp membership. So for those of you under the membership, you guys will have access to all of that stuff. As when things start to shift over with the new website and a new platform, there's going to be a community aspect to it as well. So with that community aspect, we'll be meeting 4 times a year, and you guys can get your questions answered on a live Q&A. That'll be happening 4 times a year. There's also some prehab and rehab movements on there as well. If you guys ever having any shoulder issues, knee or low back issues, those workouts or those prehab rehab movements tend to help with all that stuff. So, all right, postpartum depression. We're going to talk about what it is and how to really manage it, and kind of how to go about navigating through it. So, first thing, it's really good how long it lasts. So that was the main question. And I've gotten that over the last 2 weeks. I've had some younger women on my caseload coming in. Typically, it's been for low back pain, hip pain, and they're just getting into exercise again after being pregnant and giving birth. And some of them it's been within a couple months, some of them it's been a couple years. So it just depends on the person. But it really, how long it's going to last for you, it really just depends on you. Clinically speaking, you're looking at 2 weeks up to 3 months, so 2 to 12 weeks. But again, it's widely varying on the woman. All right. 10 to 20% of women experience postpartum depression, and if you have a history of depression, it increases your risk for postpartum depression by 20 times. There is an Edinburgh postnatal depression scale. It's a 10-question questionnaire that is available free online. If you I'll link that in the show notes too, so that way you guys don't have to Google it and try and spell it, because I'm not going to try and spell it on here. I'll link that in the show notes, so you guys can just click on that link and fill out the questionnaire. It's totally free to you. But if you're answering some of those questions, you're like, oh shit, like I'm still answering yes to some of these questions, or depending on where you're answering, you still might be struggling with it. I've worked with women that they struggled with postpartum depression for 2 to 3 years after giving birth. So it just depends on the person. It depends on their stage of readiness as far as getting back to not necessarily where they were before, but where they want to get to and what their new normal is going to be. I'll give you a recent patient example too, because this gal, she just walked in the clinic last week, and I evaluated her in person last week. And so she gave birth 2 years ago, and she struggled with postpartum depression, was exercising and all that beforehand, gave birth. Some life circumstances came up. She's now going through a separation with, I believe they were married. And so she's just had a lot of life circumstances thrown at her all at once. And with a new role as a mom, getting back into an exercise routine was very difficult for her. Now she's going to be a single mom. I'm not sure about the co-parenting status, but nevertheless, she's going to be taking on a new role, a new normal again. So her getting back to exercise, like it took her 2 years to come to the point where she's like, enough is enough. I need to go do something about this. So she's coming in. She just wants to get stronger. She wants some core strengthening. She wants to change her life around. She gained, I think it was 80 pounds between her pregnancy and then the postpartum depression. She's now 80 pounds heavier. She had gained 80 pounds. She's now lost, I think, 35 or 40 of it on her own. And so she's looking to take things kind of the rest of the way and get back to what she was doing before. So it took her 2 years, right? That's well past that 3-month mark, but it took her 2 years to get past the point where she was not okay with her current situation and she wanted to change. So everybody is different with how long it's going to affect them and how long it's going to last. I will say that exercise does decrease the risk if you were exercising during pregnancy. Now, you don't have to be exercising every day. You can be exercising 3 times a week to induce positive changes as far as physical health, but also mental health. So exercise at least 3 times a week, and that has shown to reduce your risk for postpartum depression. Social support. So who is in your circle? I'll use this last patient as an example. Had significant other and her were not able to work it out, so now they're going their separate ways, right? So her social circle is changing, and that was a person in her immediate social circle, right? So her parents are close by. I think she might have, no, she doesn't, actually she has no family close by. Her parents, I think, are within 2 hours. So she's really here kind of by herself. She has some friends that she's made over the last couple of years, but she's really here on her own. So she's going to be taking on a completely new role. She's getting back to work. So she's got to surround herself with folks that are like-minded and are going to be positive influences in her life. A gym is a great place to find people like that. as closed off as gyms can be, myself included. I go to the gym, I put my headphones in, I rock out, and I do whatever I want to do. But if you're going to the gym, you're eventually going to run into people that are have the same goals in mind. Everybody's there to get better. No one's really there to try and make themselves worse. That's not the point of going to the gym at all. So if you're going to the gym, you're going to surround yourself with people who are going to, maybe not on purpose, but accidentally keep you accountable to yourself, so that way you go back and see these people every day or every other day, however often you're going to the gym. But make sure that the folks that are in your social circle of friends, family, coworkers, gym members, all of those folks are having a positive influence on you. You don't really have time or energy to be wasting on people that are bringing you down and negatively impacting your life. You've got too much going on. And so with that being said, getting back to the gym, getting back to exercise, returning to weightlifting, it's really about pressure management, especially with the pelvic floor and rehabbing your pelvic floor. Even if you had a cesarean delivery, your pelvic floor went through 8 to 9 months of trauma because of the pelvic floor's role in supporting and being the supporting structure to all the pelvic organs, all the internal organs, and then you throw a baby on top of that. That is still a trauma to the pelvic floor, despite the fact that you may have had a C-section. Okay, so women who have had a C-section can also deal with pelvic floor dysfunction, even though they did not have a vaginal delivery. So when you're trying to get back to weightlifting again, and this can go for traditional weightlifting, this can go for Olympic weightlifting or CrossFit, starting with low loads. Starting with loads that were probably well below your max, especially if you were not able to work out during your pregnancy, or you're starting to work out after pregnancy and you never had worked out before. Start with low loads, maybe 1 to 2 sets of 15 to 20 reps, where you're keeping the weight very light and you're just introducing the movement again. You're introducing deadlifts, you're introducing squats, you're introducing bench press. You're introducing all these movements again. You're not trying to load the body with a ton of weight. You're just trying to get the movement and get your joints and get your muscles used to moving in that fashion again. That's going to be load enough, especially right away, especially for the first few weeks. Low impact variations before jumping variations. So that can go with like box jumps. You can do maybe little bunny hops instead of big box jumps. So again, just taking the big movements and scaling it down, similar to taking the big weights and scaling it back. Maybe back, instead of back squats, you're doing goblet squats. So instead of box jumps, you're maybe doing bunny hops, forward and backward bunny hops, or line hops. Another variation is going to be a hang variation versus floor or power variations. So a hang variation is going to be a hang clean or a snatch. Instead of starting at the hips and hinging up and developing the power from with the bar starting at your hips, instead of starting at the floor. When you start at the floor, it's going to create more intra-abdominal pressure, which is going to load the pelvic floor a little bit more, which will then increase any sort of symptoms that you're going to be having. If you are having symptoms, it's going to highlight those a little bit more. Give the pelvic floor some time, give your core some time to rehab. Again, as you're getting into this weightlifting, you want to take it easy the first 4 to 6 weeks and just progressively get heavier with that. But you don't need to start super heavy right away. You don't need to start super hard right away. You want to walk out of the gym, in general, you want to walk out of the gym those first few sessions thinking, I could turn around and go back to the gym and do that same thing again. And then we have the breathing techniques. So breathing out with concentric movements. So a concentric movement is going to be the up portion, like when you're going against gravity, when you're lifting the weight against gravity. So on a bench press, when you're pressing the bar away from you. On a squat, when you're standing back up from the bottom position. On a deadlift, when you're pulling the bar away from the ground. That's all a concentric motion. You want to be exhaling during that phase. And then you can progress to the Valsalva, where you're holding your breath, and then you can progress to using a weightlifting belt. I did a podcast on weightlifting belts last summer. I forget what episode it is, but if you go probably within the first 15 episodes, you'll see weightlifting belts in there somewhere. And I've referenced the breathing technique and the Valsalva and all that stuff in a little more detail on that podcast. So that's returning back to weightlifting. And then we got sleep. Sleep is a huge factor that goes into postpartum depression. It's the low quality sleep has shown to be a great predictor if someone is going to have postpartum depression or not. So women, as hard as it's going to be, especially with a newborn, need to be prioritizing their sleep over probably a lot of other things within those first few months at least. Sleep hygiene is going to be super important. So the way that I break sleep up is you've got pre-sleep, you've got intra-sleep, and then you've got post-sleep. The way post-sleep is kind of the way that you wake up. Your pre-sleep is going to be your bedtime routine. Your intra-sleep is going to be when you're passed out, like when you're asleep and you're basically unconscious. You're not aware of the surroundings that's going on, surroundings around you. So your pre-sleep. As far as proper hygiene and ideal hygiene, obviously ideal and optimal are not going to always be practical, but take these and make them specific to you. So same bedtime every day, even on Friday and Saturday nights. It's super important for your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is basically your body's sleep time and wake timer. Going to bed each day or at the same time each day, at least within 15 minutes to a half an hour is going to be super important for your body to be able to get through the sleep cycles that it needs to get through. So that way you're feeling refreshed, that way your body is recovered for the next day. Saving your bed, and so again for the pre-sleep routine, saving your bed for sleep and sex. Hanky-panky and sleeping are the only two things that you should be doing in bed. You should not be reading, you should not be scrolling your phone. Any sort of light emitting devices should be out of the room. Those alarm clocks in the hotel room that emit that red light, I unplug that shit right away. Like, I just want it out of there. It's not something that is conducive for sleeping. It can create sleep anxiety, especially those red alarm clocks. But any sort of light emitting thing, just get it out of the room. Don't even make it an option. And then your bedtime routine, similar to kids, how you have a bedtime routine for your kids. We as adults tend to get rid of that. I don't know why, but we tend to get rid of a routine before we go to bed. So if that's something that you've gotten rid of, it might be a good idea to develop. Once you have a kid, you're going to develop your kid's bedtime routine, and then you just go to bed when they go to bed, or maybe you're going to stay up for an extra hour or so and hang out with your spouse. That's great, but you've got to develop some sort of bedtime routine so that way you're able to signal to your body and allow your body to get ready for sleep. So that way when you do go to bed, you're able to fall asleep within the first 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. Another thing that has been talked about is napping. I'm a big napper. Obviously, I'm not a mom, I'm not a dad, so I don't have to worry about kids waking up at night. But napping is not recommended to allow for better sleep quality and for folks to fall asleep at night. Now, as a nursing mom, it's going to be difficult for you to not nap, right? If you're waking up every 2 hours. I have 2 coworkers right now who are pumping, and so when they first had their kid, I remember them saying that they were getting up every 2 hours at night. It was tough for one of them to get up, and so she would typically just sleep through the night as much as she could with her before her baby woke up. But the other one was getting up every couple hours. So throughout the day, I know women are told to sleep when their baby's sleeping, but if you can get on that routine of maybe sleeping for 25 minutes or half an hour, taking that power nap, and then being productive the rest of the time, but then when nighttime comes, it's going to give you a better shot at sleeping longer throughout the night. And maybe your spouse is getting up in the middle of the night to give the baby a bottle. So that way you're able to get hopefully a couple hours of sleep, a few hours of sleep in a row without having to wake up and get that interrupted sleep. As far as intra-sleep recommendations, having a dark room, and sometimes if you have a nightlight on for the kid or for the baby, there's going to be light emitting from that, so maybe you put an eye mask on, right? You want to have a blackout shades or a blackout environment for your eyes. Even when you're asleep, your brain is still sensing all this information. You think of waking up in the middle of the night because you smell smoke. Like, your brain is still active because your nose was inhaling that smoke, and it sends a signal to your brain like, hey, something's wrong. It's the same thing through your eyes. All 5 senses do sensing things even though you're asleep. That's how we stay alive. So you want to black out the room, or you want to wear an eye mask to cover all that stuff up. The other thing is, the other big thing, in my opinion, is a cool room. Your core body temperature needs to cool off by 2 degrees in order for you to fall asleep. So if you're a warm sleeper, you might want to go on the colder side of things. If you're a cold sleeper, you may want to be on the higher side of things, or you wear more blankets. But you want to be having the room around 62 to 68 degrees. And again, I'm not a parent, so I don't have to worry about this, but sleeping naked is optimal. It's not always practical though, right? Especially if you have more than just one kid with your newborn. With newborns, it's likely easier because you're not worried about kids barging through the door. But if parents are worried about kids barging through the door, maybe you wear baggier clothing or lighter clothing so that way your heat can dissipate, your body heat can dissipate as you start to fall asleep, so that way your body temperature, your core body temperature can cool down by that 2 degrees Fahrenheit for anybody listening outside of the United States. All right, and that's it for postpartum. I mean, there's a ton more to it, but I wanted to go over the timelines of it and some return to weightlifting and some recommendations as far as sleep goes, because sleep is something that's pretty hard to come by. I'll link the Edinburgh postnatal depression scale in the notes if you guys want to take that. Again, that's totally free to you. I will link the newsletter and the Spike Camp stuff in the notes too if you guys want to take a look at that. And one last thing I want to talk about. So my niche is the hunting community, and I don't know the exact percentage, but it's mostly dudes in this community. There are women, and it's a growing sport for women, which I think is awesome. I think it's needed. But the fact is that it's mostly for dudes, so there's probably going to be a lot of guys listening to this podcast. Hopefully there are a lot of guys listening to this podcast. This tip is for you. You need to be patient. So you need to be patient with your spouse if they're going through this. The last thing that most people need in their life is more criticism. People generally don't need to be critiqued. They are generally hard enough on themselves to where they don't need outside critiquing or outside ridicule on what they need to be doing. They likely know what they need to be doing. They just can't figure it out on how to get it done at that time, right? So if you're a spouse, if you're a husband, if you're a boyfriend, fiance going through postpartum depression with your spouse, be patient, be kind, be supportive. Support from pre-pregnancy may not be the support that you need to provide post-pregnancy, right? So the support may look different. Have good communication skills. Communicate that with your partner, so that way you guys are on the same page. And if you're not on the same page, get on the same page, so that way you guys can definitely help each other out and provide what each one of you needs provided from the other one. So if you guys have any questions, reach out, shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me an email, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay warm. Heart rates of heart attack go up when there's 6 or more inches of snow. So if you're out there shoveling, take your freaking time. Go in, get some water, grab a snack, and then go back out. Don't kill yourself and try and do this all in one jaunt. Take a break, go back in, warm up, and then go back out and shovel, so that way you don't give yourself a heart attack. All right, peace out, guys. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Wilderness Fitness Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please head over to your podcast app and consider leaving a review. If you think a friend or a family member may benefit from listening to this podcast, please consider sharing this episode with them. We appreciate your help in the growth of this podcast. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram for even more content, and the weekly Hump Day Q&A, where you can get all of your human performance, rehab, women's health, and injury prevention questions answered. If you're interested in getting hooked up with even more content from Wilderness PT from the comfort of your own home, head over to wildernessphysicaltherapy.com and get signed up for the Spike Camp membership. This is where you'll have access to prior seminars and a workout that'll have you in shape each fall, designed by yours truly. Since you're there, check out the mid-month media newsletter that goes out 1 to 2 times a month, which includes a variety of topics with the most recent research on health and human performance. You can sign up by hovering over the free resources section and subscribe to any of the free guides, or simply sign up under the mid-month media newsletter tab.